India and the complexities of her neighborhood. Continuing with that, today I thought let me pick up another very, very important stream of India's foreign policy, which is very, very topical, which is very relevant in terms of the headlines that we see every day, which is India and its multilateralism policy. Uh, why this topic becomes important today? Uh, I think several reasons. It's very, very significant and important. First and the foremost, as you read the headlines in the newspapers, uh, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, is every second day or the other, because of his policies, because of his statements, dominating the world headlines. And for a long time, it used to be said that the international system, post Second World War international system, particularly the international economic system, the way it has been shaped or designed has primarily been led by the United States. So, multilateral organizations such as World Bank, United Nations, WTO, directly or indirectly, all had their stamp of the United States of America in terms of what direction these multilateral organizations would take. So some scholars used to call it the US-led multilateralism. Even when we talked about globalization per se, of which many of these multilateral organizations or institutions were very, very important pillars, the larger direction of it was determined by the United States. But today, there appears to be a kind of a reversal. We have a president who is talking less and less about multilateralism. He's talking less and less about the belief that multilateral economic institutions should determine what the global norms of trade, finance, climate change should be. And in other words, what he's saying is that it is the American interest which has to get primacy over collective interests. So, what he's emphasizing on, therefore, is a kind of a global system where American primacy determines what the shape of the global order should be. And in that, multilateralism appears to be having no role to play. In that context, what should be India's response? And what has been our historical approach towards multilateralism becomes very, very important. Should India continue to stick its belief and faith in the idea of multilateralism, or should it be selective in terms of the importance or significance it should give? Becomes a very, very important policy question. And in today's lecture, this is broadly what I would like to discuss with you. And just like yesterday, I preferred an interactive mode. Even today, I would prefer to have this not as a one-way flow, but a kind of a continuing conversation, interaction. Because I believe that when there is a mutual dialogue between the speaker and the listeners, the value of the discussion gets enhanced. The structure, therefore, that I wish to follow in the lecture is of the following four parts. First and the foremost, I would like to place the lecture in a certain context of what area of political science this topic comes in. And that is exactly where I would like to bring in the subject of international political economy. And one question that I will be asking you a little later is whether in your college or in your universities, there is a paper on international political economy being taught. Or even if it is not taught, what is your understanding of the term international political economy? So that will be the starting point. The second will be a little bit about defining multilateralism. How exactly should we define multilateralism? So I would like to hear from you, and then perhaps I will give my own interpretation. The third part, what exactly has been India's commitment as far as multilateralism is concerned in the past, and how do we look at it at present in the contemporary scenario? And then finally, we will discuss a little bit about the debate between bilateralism and multilateralism, and where the world appears to be headed forward. So that is the broad landscape of my lecture. I just wanted to confirm, Raja Praveen sir, I'm supposed to finish this lecture by 11:15.
The phone number
11:15, sir. 11:15, 11:20.
11:15, 11:20. Fine,
Yes,
fine.
sir.
So
Yes.
I think we have a fairly good menu before us for us to discuss. So let me start with the first point, which is more in the form of a question. That as part of your undergraduate or postgraduate syllabus that you might be teaching, whether international political economy as a paper is there in any of the universities or colleges? I would just like to hear from the participants.
Yes, sir, we have.
Yes, sir. Yes.
We have, sir.
Okay, so Aruna ji has, and then who else? Mr. Purushottam also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, who else?
Sir, under NEP, most of the universities had this paper, sorry, not international political economy, but political economy for the final year. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So broadly, can anybody just tell me what all is covered when you deal with this paper, and how different is this paper from international politics or international relations? So, Mr. Purushottam, can you tell us how different is this paper? How do you deal with this paper?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, multiculturalism ಮತ್ತೆ ಏನು ಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಎಕನಾಮಿ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಅದು ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಡೀಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಸರ್ ಅದನ್ನು. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಮಲ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಚರ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬಹುದು ಮತ್ತು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಪೊಲಿಟಿಕಲ್ ಎಕಾನಮಿ ನಾವು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಸರ್.
Okay, okay. So you talked about multiculturalism as an important component of what you have been teaching. The state policy is very much part and parcel of political economy, as you said. Karuna also had said something. You also had a paper on this. So what all do you cover?
Same syllabus, sir. In NEP, we have same syllabus, sir. Same.
Oh, it's the same syllabus. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, uniformity. Oh.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
One nation, one syllabus.
Yes, sir.
I see. I see.
Sir.
So in that sense, It's a common syllabus across all universities.
No, sir, some 1 or 2 units, some changes is there, sir. That's it.
So, Aruna, can you tell me what all things do you cover in addition to what Purushottam said?
In political economy, sir.
Yes, actually, international political economy, whether international political economy, something is there. Or even political economy, if it is there. Broadly, how do you approach that paper? Kapil also wanted to say something.
Yes, sir. Sir, under the new education policy, there is no maximum, there is no scope for international political economy. Whatever has been designed for the syllabus is all about basic concepts of the international relations, such as national interest, national power, elements of the national power, meaning and nature of the international relations. And for the 6th semester, only theoretical aspects are covered, sir. Realism, liberalism, these kind of things are only set for the syllabus. As far as I personally think that there is no much scope for political economy in the new education policy syllabus designed for the BA 5th and 6th semester.
Only
I
one.
see. I see. Well, that's a bit of a worrying sign for me because that is one subject which I would like to see encouraged even at the level of undergraduate. I mean, there are many postgraduate departments which have this focus, but I think within the papers on international relations, if a certain element of IPE, as I call it, international political economy, can be brought in, that would really be wonderful. So I wish I had access to the higher education authorities in Karnataka and make a suggestion. Maybe I will make a suggestion through Mysore University. Why I am emphasizing on international political economy? Because, and in a way, it justifies NEP. You know, national education policy is all about interdisciplinarity, establishing interconnections between subjects, making our teaching, learning so integrated and also multidisciplinary that we can relate it to what is happening in the real world. When you look at the real world today, Donald Trump included, it is a very, very peculiar mix of international politics and international economics that we see unfolding on a day-to-day basis. It is not just happening today. International political economy as a subject actually has been developing and evolving since the 1970s. And today it has reached a fairly good level of maturity in many other countries. But somehow in India, we try to study international relations separately and international economics separately. So that's what I try to bridge. Whenever I go to refresher course lectures like this, I try to emphasize the point that we as political science scholars need to know the nuances of what international economics is happening. We need not know the gross details of data or mathematical models or graphs. We don't require hardcore economics, but some basic issues pertaining to economics and how they are affecting politics becomes very, very important. Just to give you an example, I hope you all have read the newspapers about what Donald Trump has done yesterday or day before yesterday. Some action of Donald Trump has affected India. Yes, Burama?
Yes, sir. He called our economy as a dead economy.
And what did he do? He has initiated some economic action.
He imposed a tax on
25% tax, sir.
25% tariffs. In addition to 25% tariffs, he is also talking about putting penalties on India because India has been buying oil from Russia.
Yes, sir.
And Russia is the adversary, political adversary of United States. So he is trying to penalize India economically because of a certain political opposition that he has. So this is a very clear example of an economic fallout of a political policy. And that tells you that international politics and international economics are very closely interlinked with each other. So this is just one small decision that I said. If you look at the history of international economic relations, since post Second World War world, international economics and international relations has been deeply entwined with each other. And during the peak of globalization, during the relative decline of globalization, withdrawal of Britain from European Union, and Trump and his positioning of America first, all of these have close linkages as far as international politics and international economics is concerned. And the combination of these two together is known as international political economy. Therefore, India and multilateralism is a topic that I will prefer to discuss under the larger rubric of international political economy. And one lesson I would want you all to take away after this lecture is that you all must now try to read more and more articles which talk about international economics. The link between the two are going to be more and more visible. So China becomes a very important factor. We were talking about China becoming a player in South Asian region. It affects India economically. It also affects India politically. So this is the first point that I wanted to make. That let's try and bring in international political economy dimension to our analysis of India and multilateralism. Coming more specifically to multilateralism now, it's very important for us first and foremost to answer the question of what is multilateralism in the first place, or what is multilateral policy in the first place. And like most of the times, I will not be the first one to tell you what multilateralism is. I want to hear from others. Tell me your definition of the term multilateralism. So will somebody define multilateralism for me?
Sir, multilateralism.
Yes.
Sir, multilateralism is a global order in which two or more than two power, actually more than two power centers are functioning, and there is a balance of power among these functioning entities, sir.
I would say that this is a partial definition of multilateralism. I will come back to it. Can I have some more definitions, please?
So multiple countries work together on the particular global issues.
Yes.
It's maybe on the collective decision making.
Yes.
Or some of the rule out the international orders.
Yes.
And raising the parallel or equal voices for that common expectations or the common decision.
Right. So you have added another dimension to multilateralism, collective decision making.
Yes, sir.
Raising collective voice in the global order. There is something which is still missing. Multilateralism also includes something which I indirectly mentioned when I was introducing this lecture to you. What are the pillars of multilateralism? Anybody? Nations are fine. Nations are important elements. Nations have to come together. But nations, by coming together, create something else also,
Is
which
it collective
Sir, the
security, sir?
nations coming together create regional organization and global organizations, such as UNO. Uh, this kind of organizations also form an important part of multilateralism, sir.
exactly. So when we talk about multilateralism, individual states are important, no doubt about it. I mean, there cannot be any order without nations becoming part of it. So state has to be a very, very important actor. States come together realizing that it's only by coming together and taking a set of collective decisions they can maximize collective welfare. So that collective consciousness is very important if we talk about multilateralism. But then this collective consciousness alone will not do. You also need to have a structure around which multilateralism or multilateral format is to be manifested. And that format comes in the form of multilateral organizations or multilateral institutions. So a good definition of multilateralism, therefore, will be a definition which includes coming together of states, collective consciousness, and the role and functions of multilateral institutions or organizations. So, so I will not ask you to now make a comprehensive definition of multilateralism, but these three are very, very vital components of a good definition of multilateralism. Uh, when we talk about examples, as Kapil rightly said, institutions like United Nations, World Bank, IMF, World Trade Organization, all are very, very rightly seen as multilateral organizations or institutions or organizations which reflect the spirit of multilateralism. Uh, there are several scholars who have analyzed the role of institutions in international relations or international political economy. In fact, when we look at theories of international relations, there is a theory called liberal institutionalist theory of international relations or liberal institutionalism. So it's like neorealism and neoliberal institutionalism. So this particular theoretical plank of neoliberal institutionalism is precisely about the role and significance of institutions in the international system, which reflect the collective consciousness and collective well-being, the desire to have collective well-being of nations coming together. So the whole idea that nations would like to cooperate with each other, cooperation among nations, was a thesis which was put forward by scholars like Joseph Nye, also Robert Keohane. So again, I'm not leaking any questions, but in any refresher course, one very important question that must be asked is uh, who have been some of the major proponents of liberal institutionalism. So Professor Robert Keohane is one scholar whom I deeply regard as a very, very strong proponent of liberal institutionalism. It's a different reason, different matter that I am a bit partial towards him because he is a very close friend of our department. You can guess his age. He is in his mid 80s. The years when he proposed this theory of liberal institutionalism was 1970s, when he was a very young scholar. Today, he is in his late 80s, and yet he remains in touch. He happened to come to Goa for some event, and we managed to get him to our department. And for students, it was like a lifetime opportunity to listen to Professor Robert Keohane as one of the foremost liberal institutionalist scholars. So Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, Keohane, Keohane. What is the most important thing that these multilateral institutions do? If you ask me, multilateral institutions help in bringing about order and stability in the international system because they put in a set of norms, rules, and regulations in the international system, which all those countries which are willing to become part of that multilateral institutions agree to abide by. So while multilateral institutions are important, the norms, rules, regulations that they create also become important. So it's like multilateral institutions play the role of, I'm just giving a roadside example, a traffic police inspector. The role of the traffic police or the RTO authorities is to lay down the rules and regulations which should be followed as far as the traffic is concerned. Every person who is driving the car must know that he has to be in his or her lane, should not go beyond this speed, should not overtake. And because of that, the traffic flows very smoothly. Imagine there was no traffic policeman. Imagine there were no rules. The roads would have been in a mess, and there would have been chaos everywhere. Same is the case with regard to multilateral institutions. They create norms, rules, and regulations in the international system which set certain benchmarks. And these benchmarks, therefore, create a sense of stability and order in the international system. So there was a very famous term almost all United States presidents used to use before Trump came in. And that term was rule-based order. That United States promotes a sense of rule-based order in the international system as the leading democracy in the world. Of course, after Trump came in, he has not given any attention or importance to these multilateral institutions. He says, I'm the one who creates the norms. And all the multilateral norms can go out of the window. So his argument or his logic is that these multilateral institutions actually have become a burden on the United States. Because United States actually helped in the creation of these multilateral institutions, but they created a set of rules and norms which were often used by the emerging powers, emerging players, to get the benefit of the international system, whereas the United States suffered losses. So he says that I will not go the multilateral way. I would rather deal with countries individually. So what is he doing now? He's saying that I'm not bothered about World Trade Organization. What was the function of World Trade Organization? Its function was basically to create a set of rules and regulations as far as governing international trade is concerned, that countries should trade with each other in a free and fair manner. They should not impose undue restrictions. The countries which are less developed should get some preference. But Trump's claim is that no, World Trade Organization has ended up benefiting those countries which are harming United States interests. So rather than following the WTO guidelines, I would rather deal with them bilaterally, and I will negotiate a bilateral free trade agreement with them. Same is the case with regard to his policy towards climate change. Same with regard to United Nations. He says that no, I put American interests as a first priority, and therefore multilateralism can go out of the window. Uh, with this, therefore, as the backdrop, and with the fact that today multilateralism appears to be at a crossroads, appears to be in many ways facing uncertain existence, uh, where does it leave India? Whether it is World Trade Organization, whether it is IMF or United Nations, India has been an important part and parcel of what many of these multilateral organizations or institutions have been proposing. So if these institutions themselves are facing a threat, what should India do? And to understand what should India do, we need to reflect back a little to see what was India's historical approach as far as multilateralism was concerned. How did it evolve over the years? Where exactly does it exist as far as the present circumstances are concerned? So this brings me to the third point of my lecture, which is India's commitment to multilateralism, past and present. And I would like to put forward a proposition on which, again, I would like to have your comments by saying that in the post-independence period, which is in the period immediately after independence, India preferred to opt for a policy of greater engagement towards multilateralism and non-alignment. Why do you feel India preferred the policy of greater multilateral engagement and at the same time non-alignment simultaneously? So can I get some responses from your side? After India became independent, it could very well have said that, well, we are at a stage where we need to take off. So why don't we tie up with one major partner? Many people say that India became closer to the US only after 1990s, after opening up its economy. If we had become close to the US in the 40s itself, today the story would have been very different. Why did we opt for multilateralism? Why did we opt for non-aligned movement? Was it the right choice? So can I hear from the participants on this question? Why did we prefer multilateralism in the years after our independence? Why did we not stick to one major power alone?
So to take the help from all nations, both USSR and USA.
Yes.
Sir, actually, USA, it is a capitalist country. USSR, as you know, that the communist. India wanted to avoid that, being drawn into this rivalries to maintain the strategic autonomy.
That's right.
And the next one is, and immediately just being as a neutral That's what we choose as a norm, non-alignment movement.
Remaining non-alignment gave us a certain degree of strategic autonomy
Yes, sir.
of taking our own decisions,
Yeah.
deciding what was in our interest the most, and accordingly, therefore, moving ahead in that direction.
Yes, sir.
As Madam said, remaining non-aligned also enabled us to actually take the help of both the powers as and when we needed the help. So if we had aligned pretty early, our options would have got limited. So we preferred, therefore, to keep our options open. Many people have this perception that India was aligned towards Soviet Union, and therefore our proximity with the United States did not happen. That is not a very correct premise, because even as we started following the Soviet model of economic development, planned economy, there were enough engagements that India had with United States with regard to many of our research institutions, trade, so on and so forth. So non-alignment for India was a matter of being more pragmatic in terms of deciding what help we wanted to take, insofar as other players or other partners were concerned. Same was the case with regard to India's approach towards multilateral institutions or multilateral organizations, like United Nations or IMF or World Bank. And that time there was no WTO. Can anybody tell me which was that organization which was preceding World Trade Organization? World Trade Organization came into existence in 1995. But what was the organization before it got transformed to WTO?
GATT, sir. GATT, sir.
GATT.
GATT, sir.
So can we go one step further? What is the full form of GATT?
General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs.
General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. Great. So with regard to GATT, IMF, World Bank, even United Nations, India preferred a multilateral approach. And I would say that even that was a very significant ideologically driven decision, because if you're part of a multilateral organization, it is very much possible for you to also become collectively aligned with a group of like-minded nations where you can get your voice heard on a much stronger footing. Just to give you an example, India had been championing the cause of non-aligned and developing countries under the United Nations Forum for a fairly long time. The non-aligned movement, the Belgrade Conference, etc., were very important pointers in that direction. But a very, very significant point of transition or a landmark event in this direction came in the year 1974, when India was able to bring together a large number of like-minded developing countries and pass a resolution in United Nations General Assembly stating that from now onwards, it is important for us to create a new system of international economic relations, which should be more sensitive to the needs and aspirations of the developing countries or the countries of the South. And just because more than 70 or 80 countries together signed on this resolution in United Nations General Assembly, the resolution had to be passed because these countries were a majority. Can anybody tell me which was this historic resolution, 1974, in United Nations General Assembly, talking about the interests of the developing world? So indirectly, there are many objective type questions that I'm posing before you.
NIEO, New International Economic Order.
NIO, very good, very good. The resolution was called the Resolution for New International Economic Order, NIEO, which would not have been possible if India had not been part of a multilateral exercise. If India alone would have said that we need to create uh, an international economic order in favor of developing countries, nobody would have listened. But just because we were part and parcel of a collective voice of more than 80 nations, the resolution was heard and adopted. Now, it's a different matter altogether that nothing happened to that resolution subsequently, because the developed countries were never serious about addressing these issues. And the third world unity also was a very short-lived unity, because eventually they were able to strike their own alliances or linkages with other countries as they wanted. So NIEO resolution, as it was called, New International Economic Order resolution, looked good on paper, but did not do much to translate things into reality. Yet, that did not prevent India from still taking up issues in multilateral fora. So in the GATT forum, and also subsequently in 1995, when GATT became World Trade Organization, India continued to champion its voice on behalf of the developing world. So India, therefore, consistently, and I would like to underline this word and make it bold, this word consistently, maintained a pro-multilateralist policy approach as far as international relations is concerned. And many people would say that it was by and large a reflection of the larger worldview that India had during the freedom struggle. We championed the cause of the countries which were still under colonial rule for decolonization and removal of anti-imperialism. What happened post Second World War, therefore, was a logical extension to that. Post 1991, as India moved into a very, very different economic trajectory, with the onset of economic reforms, with India wanting to become part and parcel of globalization, the focus, the tone, and the intensity of India's multilateral approach increased in many ways. So for the period till 90s, we were more like having a very idealist kind of a premise. We talked about pan third world unity. Post 1990s, we started becoming much more pragmatic in terms of our policy orientation. You know, one of the very, very prominent foreign policy scholars in India, you must have heard his name, Professor C. Raja Mohan. He wrote a very, very good book on India's foreign policy, Crossing the Rubicon, in 2006, in which he makes the point that India's foreign policy in post-1990 scenario shifted from idealism of past to pragmatism of future or present. So from idealism to pragmatism. And as part of this new pragmatism, from 1990s till date, we have been very, very realistically, pragmatically, pushing forward the idea of multilateralism. Just that the nature of multilateralism that we today argue for has modified a bit, has changed a little bit. So why am I saying that our posturing towards multilateralism has changed a bit? In what way? Let me call it India's new multilateralism. In fact, this term came to my mind just now. So I can give credit to this refresher course that as I was giving a lecture to this course, the idea of India's new multilateralism came to my mind. What is therefore India's new multilateralism? And how different it is from multilateralism of the old kind? Very simple. Old multilateralism, I have already mentioned to you. We believed in multilateralism reflecting the pan global south unity. It was like mega multilateralism. Many countries would come together, join multilateral organizations, and try to present a common voice. We wanted to be seen as a player which reflected sentiments of the global south. We represent the third world countries. Was the focus as far as old multilateralism was concerned, and our foreign policy statements in UN, World Bank, IMF, WTO, all were reflective of that. In India's new multilateralism, however, and this I'm talking about the last 10-15 years, while we have not given up on our mega multilateralism, I mean, we are still part of IMF, World Bank, WTO. We also have simultaneously started getting involved or engaged with smaller groupings, which are becoming perhaps important power centers in themselves. These smaller groupings can be politically relevant. I mean, they may have a political or strategic dimension. They may also have a very strong economic dimension. But India is now becoming plurilateral in its approach. I mean, that's another term which has become very fashionable, and international scholars, international relations scholars keep citing these terms on and off. Multilateralism to plurilateralism. Can anybody give me a hint as to what is meant by this plurilateralism? Plurilateralism emerges from the word plurilateral. So there is single, multiple, and there is plural. So plurilateralism. Can anybody take a guess? What is the meaning of this?
India is becoming the member of various multilateral organizations like Quad, then of course APEC,
Yes.
Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, then BRICS. It goes on and on. Sir.
Yes. Exactly. While APEC is not much to talk about now because the focus and orientation changed. But these two examples that you gave very rightly,
Yes,
the BRICS and the Quad, which are small member groupings.
Yes.
So Quad, as of now, just has 4 members.
Yes.
United States, Australia, Japan, and India. The BRICS started off with, I think, 4 or 5, but today it has expanded to a little more. Quad is an association of those countries around Indo-Pacific which perhaps have a common interest in countering China. BRICS, on the other hand, includes China and Russia, which are seen as countries which are opposed to the larger sphere of influence which the United States reflects. So India, on one hand, is ready to become part of a multilateral group, such as Quad, which has a different orientation. We at the same time have no problems trying to become part and parcel of what we know as BRICS, which has Russia, China, the two countries which the Western world doesn't like, yet they have to engage with them, and many other countries. While BRICS is a reflection of coming together of emerging powers or emerging players in the international system. Quad, on the other hand, appears to be more a kind of an alliance of countries which are strategically inclined towards creating a more friendly, amenable Indo-Pacific. And those many people who look at the marvel of India's diplomacy often ask, well, how can India do both? Can you be part of Quad on one hand, which is severely opposed to China and Russia, and at the same time you can be part of BRICS? So how can you do that? Well, frankly, I am not able to analyze that dilemma, but can anybody explain how India has been able to do that? Become part of two groups which may not necessarily see eye to eye with each other, and yet remain friendly with both. It must be taking a lot of balancing. The answer to that often has been given by India's foreign minister himself, Mr. S. Jaishankar, whom I'm sure you all must have heard several times. He's very popular in terms of his one-liners and the statements that he gives to the European ministers or ambassadors, particularly when they start pointing out that how can you be friends with Russia? Russia has attacked Ukraine. Why are you buying oil from Iran? So he hits back at them. And what he argues is that when you make friends or unmake friends based on your national interests, China and Russia included, why do you want us, therefore, only to listen to what you just have to say? So when you wish to secure your interest, you will go a long way in making friends with these countries. But when it comes to us, you want to put restrictions. So he tries to highlight that duplicity in the arguments of a large number of European countries or Western countries, and says that just as these countries have to go by their national interest, the principle of strategic autonomy, India also has to go as per what its fundamental strategic and economic needs are. And this forms the essence of India's new multilateralism, as I would like to call it, or plurilateralism, which can be another way of describing it. That today we would rather not just be part of one mega grouping, but we might as well be part and parcel of several, multiple mega groupings, mini groupings, which may have smaller countries, but being part of these countries in many ways helps us secure our national interests. We are not so much trying to be ideological in terms of our preferences. We are going ahead with what our core national interests are. Now comes the challenge. For a fairly long period of time, this approach worked. And in fact, India's approach was seen as a model approach by a large number of and as countries, many countries said that India is very bold. It takes independent decisions on its own. Till the biggest threat to this policy of plurilateralism came And that has come in the form of President Donald Trump. In view of what we have been witnessing for the last 2-3 months. And it has culminated, therefore, just day before yesterday, in Donald Trump increasing tariffs over India, 25%, but also imposing additional penalties on India for importing oil from the Soviet Union. Sorry, Soviet Union, I said, from Russia. Soviet Union is gone long back. And that is exactly where I think one of the biggest foreign policy challenges or foreign economic policy challenges are going to lie from India. What should India do? And how should India respond to this challenge which Donald Trump has thrown upon us? So there are two challenges, therefore, that he has thrown upon us. One is more of a bilateral challenge. So what is that bilateral challenge? Donald Trump says that India has benefited unduly from the bilateral trade with United States. India imposes very, very high level of tariffs on American goods, whereas we impose very less tariff as far as Indian exports are concerned. The result, therefore, is that the American goods become a lot costlier and are not able to penetrate the Indian market, whereas many of the top United States companies, by making investments into India because of cheap labor, are driving out employment away from United States. So on one hand, your trade balance is not maintained. On the other hand, you are also losing your jobs. And to prevent that, he is using tariff increase as a kind of a tool. So that is the bilateral challenge which Donald Trump has thrown at us. The other is the multilateral challenge. Donald Trump is trying to shape or determine or influence what groupings India should be part of. And one of his biggest sources of anger is why India is becoming active partner of BRICS countries. Because he says that BRICS basically is an anti-US platform. It is trying to create its own model of currency. BRICS Bank already has been established. BRICS is talking about de-dollarization. So all that is being done to reduce the importance of United States. And therefore, he says that BRICS is a collection of those nations which share a certain antagonistic attitude towards America. So he's trying to tell us, therefore, that you should not be friends with those countries with which we have an adversarial policy. Now, this latest phase has come in for a shock for India because we were negotiating a trade deal with United States. It's not that we said that, no, we will not discuss trade. The trade negotiations were happening, just that it had gone on for quite some time. They were supposed to have been concluded last month. But the one point on which India is sticking very hard is that we don't want to open up our agricultural sector for exports by US because we feel that is going to affect our farmers in a big way. But then the deadline which the US administration had set, saying that if there is no trade deal by this date, we will impose tariffs on the countries. So blanket 25% tariff was imposed. And therefore, India, which was till now thinking that, okay, even if Donald Trump is a bit unpredictable, US as a whole has been a good friend of ours. We will be able to overcome this crisis. Multiple crises, the bilateral crisis as well as the multilateral crisis. But then the decision that came day before yesterday was very, very dramatic. Indian policymakers are still to react to it formally. In that sense, the chair of India's foreign minister, therefore, has become very, very contentious. I mean, he has to take a tough call as to what foreign policy premise he should go in for. Before I make my last point, I just wanted to ask you, what would your approach have been if you were the foreign minister of India at this stage, as far as the US threats are concerned? Would you prefer to have followed a policy to totally switch off, therefore, from US and look for alternative measures, or you would have gone in for some kind of a compromise? So just wanted to hear. I mean, it's a hypothetical question. It's a difficult question, but what would have been your approach? Can any person who can put himself in the shoes of the foreign minister say something?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Kapil.
Sir, if I were the foreign minister, definitely I would have given first preference for my national interest, sir. In international relations, the foreign policies are based on our national interest. What if I will be ready to compromise on the peripheral interest of my nation, but not on the core interest of my nation, sir? What actually to be seen is that US accounts for only 1/5 of the Indian exports. And another important thing is that, sir, despite of our best attempts to trade with the US, India always faced a kind of uh, tariff and non-tariff barriers by the US. It is definitely the proportion of those tariffs has increased under the mercurial policies of the Donald Trump. No matter, sir. But India should also look for the new avenues, such as increasing trade relations with China and other Asian countries. And India should also focus upon increasing trade relations and other kind of relations with SAARC countries, ASEAN countries, which are just our neighborhood and extended neighborhood. So India should not bank upon US for its entire foreign policy, for its major trades. But India should also, what actually I'm saying is that India should also focus on other avenues, sir, which just I mentioned.
So, Mr. Kapil, again, today you have surprised me. What are you doing here in this refresher course? I think you should have been in Delhi, and in some way or the other, you should have been advising the foreign minister, because I think that is precisely the approach that India needs to follow. As far as I am concerned, while we cannot entirely negate the US, it is an important partner, no doubt. I mean, even if it is 5%, it's not a less amount. We need US support because of many other reasons also. And we must realize that Trump, after all, is a transitory phenomena. Trump will not remain forever. Mercurial, yeah. So we may have to bear with Trump for some time in terms of maintaining a certain basic minimum that is needed. But the most important point you said is that we need to now diversify ourselves a lot more, whether it is our defense requirements are concerned, whether it's energy, trade, etc., etc. Having a diversified portfolio always helps because then you are able to minimize the chances of sudden shocks. So imagine if Indian economy had been totally dependent on the US today, what would have been our situation? Fortunately, we have a certain resilience within. We have a certain diversification that is already existing, which will perhaps be able to withstand the temporary shock that certainly will result as far as these tariffs are concerned. My hunch is that these tariffs will not stay on for a long time. Sometimes, when you take a very hardline policy stance, the objective is to give a very maximum position so that you can come down. to a certain level. So it's a tactical position. But at the same time, we need to diversify our portfolio. In that sense, I would agree with your suggestion. And therefore, the last point, how do we look ahead, therefore, as far as our multilateral policy is concerned? I would say that bilateralism and multilateralism somewhere down the line should go hand in hand as far as India's foreign policy posturing is concerned. Bilateralism is important because it helps you to deepen your engagement with the concerned country with which you are engaging on matters pertaining to trade, investment, or finance. A bilateral free trade agreement or a bilateral investment treaty or a finance related agreement therefore helps you to deepen your ties. Multilateralism, on the other hand, enables you to spread out the chances of inherent shocks and pressures that might emerge as far as the international system is concerned. So one should be bilateral, but at the same time, a multilateral approach has to continue, whether it comes to our engagement with individual countries or with regard to multilateral institutions and organizations. This will have to be a very, very dynamic or a kind of an evolving approach that one has to follow. Foreign policy as such cannot really be static in these very, very turbulent times. So long as you are going to have leaders like Trump or even Putin for that matter, or nations like India will have to put their eggs in multiple baskets. They will have to consider various options, ultimately which will lead to what would constitute their core national interest. So these were the points which I just thought I'll discuss with you today. We have a couple of minutes remaining. In the time that we have remaining, I will be very happy to refer to more comments from you or answer any questions that you may have to the extent I can. So the floor is now open for the participants to give their opinion, ask questions, or any feedback you may want to give.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah. Good morning.
Sir, there is a talk saying that dollar will be replaced by other forms of currency. What is your take on that, sir, with reference to international political economy?
Oh, yes.
Like, for example, the BRICS currency or so, which they're talking about.
Yes. There has been a talk, but I do not see that happening in the near future. Donald Trump keeps on saying that the BRICS countries are talking about de-dollarization and they are going to replace the dollar. But for those of us who know international economic and financial relations, know that the spread and the depth of dollar is far too deep in the international economic system. So you cannot really have a currency which will replace the dollar. At the most, what BRICS will do is that when it comes to their specific internal transactions, for some transactions, they may take recourse to using their own currencies for settlement of payments. This is something which is not new. This is something which already has been happening as part of some initiatives that were taken way back in the 1970s as part of the various monetary and payments arrangements that were there. In fact, you would be very surprised to know that there is an organization called Asian Clearing Union, ACU, of which India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar are part. And the entire purpose of this mechanism is to make sure that a certain amount of saving of foreign currency can take place by these countries using their respective currencies. I mean, this was the mandate till a few years back. The whole idea was that use each other's currency so that we can save on the dollars. Only the net payment that remains after setting off claims will be paid in dollars. So with BRICS, something similar I see happening, but total replacement, I don't think so. That will happen.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question or query? So can I say that the participants will try to make a conscious effort to bring in international political economy dimension, even if not a separate paper, but at least that mix of politics and economics in their international relations paper?
Yes, sir,
Because
definitely that will be.
because if you do that, I will be able to also send you some very good readings on that area.
Sure,
Because
sir.
Sure,
yes,
sir.
Sure, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, sir.
and then who knows if Mysore University is having a lot of influence in Bangalore, or if Dr. Raju Praveen has influence in Bangalore, they may influence NEP also to include international political economy.
Yeah, we'll try our level best, sir.
Yes, indeed,
Yes.
indeed. Any other question or query?
Yeah, I request one to formally extend a vote of thanks among the teacher participants.
Okay.